We're live.
Well, hey there, friends and neighbors. It's Dan Cavallari, Slow Guy on the Fast Ride, here with my co-host,
Mark Still,
of Slow Guy on the Fast Ride as well. Welcome to I think this is the third episode of the weekly.
The third weekly.
My gosh, it's almost like weeks happen every week.
It has taken 3 weeks to get here.
It has. How about that? Well, we're here to recap the week's news, talk a little bit about cycling and all the things we found interesting this week. And we hope that some of you will start to join us in the live stream chat room here and ask us some questions. Make fun of us. I don't care. Heckle.
We're making fun of each other. It'd be nice if other people chimed in.
It's true. Mostly we just want company. Well, let's jump right in. So for me, the biggest story of the week is Pro Cycling Magazine has announced that it will cease publication after its January issue. And boy, the notion of being media in this world right now and the way things, especially in the cycling world, incredibly difficult. I'm incredibly sad to see them go. No title, I think, would be cheering another title going under right now. We need each other. We need more support. I mean, we just need more support. I think people have been bombarded with subscription services and with paywalls, and it does get frustrating. But at the same time, we can't do this without support. And so, it makes me think about Slow Guy on the Fast Ride. We are one of the very few, if not the only, independent cycling media source right now. We need your help. Subscribe, share, help us get the word out that we're doing this. It's the only way we can survive. I do not want to see any more titles bite the dust. That we need more perspectives. The consolidation is great for some, but honestly, we need broader opinions, broader reporting. It only helps if we have more of this. So.
I agree, and I think we need to bring the right content. So another reason to reach out and let anybody that you can, let us know what you want to see so we can bring the right content, but it is crowded. It is,
but at the same time, we need you. That's the bottom line. Yeah. But let's talk about something more fun.
More fun and less serious.
It turns out I have something in common with Mads Pedersen.
I've ridden bikes with you. I'm going to guess it is not your prowess on a bike.
I don't know what you mean. I don't. My moniker is Slow Guy on the Fast Ride. Pretty sure Mads doesn't go by that. But VeloNews, Andrew Hood is reporting Mads Pedersen's quote on ketones. I really don't care if people are using ketones or not. Now, when I saw this headline, the first thing out of my mouth was, I've tested ketones, and the reason I wouldn't take them is because they taste like shit. And sure enough, you scroll down in this article, and it's not far down where Pedersen says, I just know it tastes like shit, so that's enough for me to not use it. and I think that's pretty valid. I mean, if you can't get something down in the heat of competition, don't want to use it, right?
I guess you don't want to win bad enough.
Yeah, right.
Which is that begs the question: did they do anything?
Well, and that's another quote in here. Is it says there's really no studies that are conclusive right now that ketones actually even do anything. I don't know the answer. I honestly don't. I'm following the science at this point, and if they're saying that they don't have conclusive evidence, I'm guessing that that's true. That said, the teams are probably well ahead of that kind of study than I am.
Yeah, and the idea is certainly it would provide some kind of benefit, and then that brings us back to the lingering question of where's the line?
Right.
Where's the line between supplement, where's the line between good nutrition, where's the line between I did more reps than you did,
right,
and crossing that line into performance enhancing that shouldn't be there.
Right, and I mean the concept of doping is this ever evolving thing as we get new technology, we get new ketones or whatever else they're using now. I mean, you talk to Eddie Merckx and he's like, hell yeah, I was doping, but at that point none of it was banned, so.
And what's a little cocaine between them?
I've always said, yeah. But yeah, ketones, boy, they do taste really bad.
I have not tasted ketones, and nor do I have any interest in tasting ketones.
I don't think you should really even wander down that road.
I'm going to stick with burritos and a little whiskey and riding bikes.
I think you're on a successful track there.
I don't have to make a living at it, but
that's true too. Yeah. But that doesn't keep us from throwing spitballs, right?
Yeah. Correct. Yes. Yes.
Moving on, still sticking with Andrew Hood from VeloNews. Lizzie Deignan wants to see a 3-week edition of the Tour de France Femmes.
I do too.
Who doesn't? What's stopping us? Why are we not seeing it right away?
Well, they say it's money. Is it money, or is it still lingering sexism that somehow women can't do events as hard as men? They do the #1 event in the world better than we do. They can only do it. We can't do it. They give birth to children. There's nothing on a bike that could be that hard. So I don't know why we don't have a 3. Hell, the racing's been better. Yeah. In the last 10 years, women's racing's been more entertaining than men's racing. In a lot
of ways, yeah. I would say the one thing I will listen. I want to see a 3-week Tour de France Femmes. I 100% support this, and honestly, even if it doesn't make the money back, I mean, do the right thing, and this is going to grow. It's going to build. You don't make that profit in the first year. Of course not. No business will make that kind of profit in the first year. It's planting that seed and then saying, our 10-year plan is to have this grow. I will say this, knowing that women's racing content doesn't perform as well across the board, from any title I've ever spoken with, not just the ones I've worked for, women's content does not do as well. And that's not because it's not interesting, it's because there's really no built-in fan base among women. Men are actually the primary consumers of women's coverage. So I think there are some certain business angles there that are being considered in terms of not doing the 3-week race right up front. And Lizzie Deignan's actually really realistic about it, and she's saying here the 8-day is a great start.
Sure. It's better than the 1-day thing we've done the last 2 years.
Right. It's a great start, and now we need to build. And I'm really on board with Lizzie's take on this.
Where do you stand, though, on, isn't that the governing body's part of their charter and their goals are to grow the sport? And regardless of whether or not it can make money this year or next, isn't that part of a governing body's job, is to make those investments and grow the sport?
Yeah, and I think if they had made the investments or continue to make any investments in getting kids on bikes across the world, I mean, to me, that's the best way to grow women's racing in general, is not necessarily TV rights, not necessarily better agreements for internet streaming. It's getting kids on bikes. I mean, that's how you grow this sport, right? That's how you light the fire and grow that interest. So to me, that falls on the governing body. It falls on race teams. It falls on all of us, really.
Yeah, and I realize I mentioned governing body, and that might go back to the UCI, which is the biggest chuckle whatever in the world. ASO's probably, I'm sure, all wrapped up in that because of their ownership of the tour. So does it come down to, and that leads us to the next thing, does that come down to the federations within the countries? I mean, what should USA Cycling be doing that they aren't doing? What are they doing to grow women's cycling and to contribute to something like a 3-week tour for women?
I have a lot of questions for USA Cycling lately. Now, Rob DiMartini just resigned, is taking over a pillow and mattress as CEO of a pillow and mattress company.
Great.
Brendan Quirk was just named the USA Cycling CEO. Now, I have a lot of complex feelings about USA Cycling, as I'm sure a lot of you do. What we saw recently at a cyclocross race, we saw some transphobic picketing, and USA Cycling did nothing to shut it down. To me, that is a huge, huge problem. And USA Cycling hasn't stepped up to that occasion. And I think that goes back to exactly what we were just talking about. If you're not making this welcoming for everybody, we all lose. No matter what your views are on trans athletes, if we are shutting people out, if we are shutting people down, that shrinks the audience. It makes us look petty. It makes us look like we're not a welcoming community. Because frankly, if you're not shutting that kind of transphobic stuff down, you're not a welcoming community.
Right.
So Brendan Quirk, I don't have any opinion about Brendan. I do wish USA Cycling had broadened its appeal, I guess, by maybe thinking about more females in charge, more people of color. We need to broaden our reach now, not later, not with diversity and inclusion training. This needs to happen now. If we don't grow this sport now, the next 20 years are going to be very difficult for us. That's my opinion. I think it was a big swing and a miss for USA Cycling. I think they did way more damage than they could have done in terms of PR, in terms of growing our sport, by just shutting down that protest before it started.
Devil's advocate, free speech. They can protest.
They can, absolutely. But again, this was a sanctioned event. You know, there's no reason USA Cycling said, yeah, you can go protest, go do it over there. Yeah. Get out of here.
At the very least, come out and say,
right,
free speech, but we don't support that.
Right. Yeah, and I think the silence spoke very loudly, which was disappointing. So
Brendan Quirk coming in.
Yeah.
Wasn't he was a competitive cyclist? He founded competitive cyclists back in the day?
He's been around for a long time. I think he was associated with Allied Bikes for a while. You know, he's not a bad choice. I mean, I don't know enough about him or what his goals are with USA Cycling to have any sort of firm, you know, stance on him taking over. But I do think that USA Cycling has an onus on them to really broaden the faces we see on their committees, in their meeting rooms, and their public-facing positions. And that is where they're really lagging.
Yep.
Moving on. Let's talk about bike racing. A lot of sprinters in the news this week.
A lot of sprint opinions in the news.
Let's start with Cycling Weekly reporting Fabio Jakobsen on aiming for the Tour de France, lawsuit against Groenewegen, and supporting Cavendish. Now, I'll admit I kind of checked out on this whole storyline for a while. And I know that Quick Step had brought a lawsuit pretty quickly after the incident between Jakobsen and Groenewegen. I did not realize that Jakobsen was also pursuing charges against Groenewegen in court. That's news to me.
It is brilliant that he's back racing already.
Yes.
It was last year. I mean, it's not like he just got back. He raced last year.
Right. Do we feel like...
Or earlier this year.
Do we feel like Groenewegen's been appropriately punished for this?
I don't know how much punishment was in line. Yeah, he came off his line. He clearly shut the door. But there's just no way I believe that was with malice. No cyclist says, I'm going to put this guy in the fence and in the hospital and endanger his life. I don't want to excuse it, but it is the nature of that part of a bike race.
Yeah.
So I don't know what punishment needed to be there outside of a punishment appropriate for breaking a rule in a bike race. I certainly don't think there needs to be any lawsuit. To that, but I don't know the intricacies of those contracts, and I mean that's his livelihood. But again, those roles could have been reversed so quickly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and to me it brings up a question. I mean, Groenewegen served a lengthy ban, which was warranted, I think, and that keeps it in the sport. Are we, as cycling fans and as a cycling culture, too punitive? We really like to punish people. Even, I mean, this goes back to our conversation about doping. We punish and punish and punish. 2-year ban, not enough for a doper. Lifetime ban, not enough for a doper. We're pretty punitive. I mean, is this playing into that?
I'd like to get rid of a lot of the dopers.
Sure.
For what they do to the sport, but I don't know that it's just cycling. I think that's sport in general. I think that's the way our culture's developed. Mm-hmm. And I do think it's over the top. The culture is now affected in the way decisions get made based on what might happen.
Yeah.
And that's, you can blame lawyers for that. You can look at injury lawsuits and all the commercials for that. But I certainly think within cycling, it's crossed a line where this is a penalty within the sport. No, let's go out deeper and farther and pull that back in. And it's because that same situation has happened hundreds of times in races. Yeah. But for the timing of it and how serious the injury was, now we want to do something. And I think that's the problem. Yeah. Cavendish has put people down and been kicked out of races. Sagan's done it. Yep. It's been wrong. It's been right. Cipollini did it back in, it's been forever. Yep. Now all of a sudden, because it went that one little step too far when it could have done that every other time, now we're suing people outside of the sport. And I don't know that that's the right step.
I mean, and if anything, I think there's culpability for the race organizer in this sense, because that finishing 100%. Chute was super narrow, super fast, super dangerous. And you can see that, I'm looking at the photo now, the barriers are sloped upward so that when your front wheel hits it, you're going sky high. Where does the culpability end? Yeah. And is Groenewegen really the guy you want to go after for this situation when really what he was doing was jockeying for position? Sure, he was too aggressive, he broke his line, he deserved his suspension. Doesn't it end there for him? And now shouldn't we be talking about grander scope?
And I get the other side of it is, Jakobsen almost died. Yeah. Yep. And you can't take it away. He almost died. Right. And he's going to have issues, just like he talked to Bernie. Yep. Yeah, he's going to have not that level of issue, but he's going to have issues that affect his ability to earn a living. I get it. But at some point, that's the price of entry to the sport.
Yeah, and I don't know the right answer. I mean, honestly, we're arguing the points because it's not a clear answer.
Yeah, we do. We talk about cycling news. We don't know the answer.
Yeah. Moving on, staying in the realm of the sprinter. Spencer Martin's got another great article out in Peloton magazine. He's doing some really great work.
Really good work.
A lot of the statistics and analysis. Pure sprinters, endangered species or secret weapon? I love this.
That's a little campy.
It is. The deck is, some think the pure sprinter is a dying breed, but it must be the answer to many teams. It might just be the answer to many teams' problems. Well, okay, we're not going to dive too deep into the data that he's got, which is really fascinating. I would definitely go to pelotonmagazine.com and check this article out. Do you think the pure sprinter is dead?
I think the definition's different.
Yeah.
I think that right now, pure sprinter means a person who can win a short race, relatively short race, 4 or 5 hour road race on a really tough course that goes really fast, as long as it has a flat or downhill finish. That's getting pretty specific.
Yeah.
When, in that same race, the Sagan model has evolved into these monsters known as Van Aert and Van der Poel.
Yes.
And Colbrelli. These people get over the mountains.
Yep.
They're not really even struggling. They're not at the front in the mountains, although Van Aert won on Ventoux last year in the Tour, and he can lay down the watts and win that same short, fast stage.
Yep.
I think I'd lean towards endangered species if the definition is as I put it, and I believe that's the definition. I mean, if Greipel was just as fast, I think, in the last 5 years as he's ever been. He could barely win races. Yeah, Cavendish won last year.
Right.
I don't know.
So, the super sprinter, as it were, or there's a great quote in here from a podcaster, Benji Nason, calls them climby sprinty boys.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I love.
Sprinty boys.
Yeah, so I think maybe the pure sprinter, like the Caleb Ewens or the Greipels of old, become more of like a place kicker sort of position. They're very specialized, very like, okay, we know that this race is going to have this stage and we want you to be able to win that
And they're
stage.
still going to win some of those races.
Yeah.
But it's going to have to be just that little narrow definition for them to have a chance. And I think the other piece is, remember decades ago with Cipollini, those kind of sprinters, there was one team or maybe two teams that had those kind of trains that would organize.
Yeah.
And now you've got world champion like Alaphilippe on the front leading a sprint out. He's the first of 6 lead out men, and 5 teams are doing that.
Yeah.
And there's no room on the road. You just can't pull that off like you could before.
Right. And I think having these super sprinters, the Van der Poels and the Van Aerts, really makes the racing better. Getting them over the mountain, being able to get over the mountains to get to those flat finishes, it only animates the race more.
And I don't think Van der Poel's very bright, which makes it extremely exciting racing. Because he doesn't seem to have any tactical idea.
I'm not going there.
He just doesn't. But you know what was cool? When he lapped the field last year to win the race and get the yellow jersey in the Tour, that was great. There's no way a race director told him to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Just ride off the front, win this climb, and then do it again, and you'll be in the yellow jersey. Right. Nobody told him to do that.
I ain't going there, but I do think that, watching these, Sagan animated racing for so long, and part of it was his personality, but part of it was his ability to transcend just the standard sprinter style. And I think this is nothing but good for the Peloton.
I'm excited too, and I like the fact that they're blazing a trail for those sprinters or those fast people that lengthens their career by going, well, gosh, I could just flip over to the classics and be a Cancellara or a Sagan kind of guy. I think that's going to be brilliant for racing.
Right. Away from the sprinters for a moment, all cyclists, we just love coffee. We just love it. It's ridiculous. It's silly, really.
But you say silly.
It's silly. Okay. No, it's silly. I'm going with silly.
It's serious stuff.
I'm sticking with silly. Rouleur is reporting that Rafa unveils, and this is in pounds, 2,700 pound rocket espresso machine. That translates to $3,000-ish US dollars, maybe 32. Why?
Well, as someone who owns such an espresso machine, not quite that expensive, that's not a ton of money.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the equivalent of a $275 pair of bib shorts.
Okay.
It's expensive.
It's pricey.
It would make most normal people that don't do that question your sanity.
Right.
it's not $900 bibs.
Okay. You know, it's pretty, but how much of it is because RAPHA is stamped on the side?
30%.
30%.
Yeah,
okay.
That's about a $2,000 espresso machine.
And listen, if you work at RAPHA right now and you're saying, oh, screw these guys, I would love to have this thing. I'm not saying it's not awesome.
like I said, I have that sort of equipment in my house.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, how nice would it look right here as we're doing the...
We could just pull the shots
right here, right now.
This is not very technologically savvy, but I'll
Mark does have a really super nice espresso machine. And I actually have his old espresso machine, so I paid $0 for my espresso machine. So maybe we're making much ado about nothing here, but this thing is cool looking.
This is the pot calling the kettle something.
Pot calling the kettle Rafa? I don't know. It is a very cool looking thing. I would love to have it on my countertop. I probably will never pay that much money for an espresso machine. But you know, Mark is a coffee connoisseur, and like I said,
I'm not a connoisseur. I'm an idiot that spends way too much money on coffee stuff because I enjoy it.
That is the definition of connoisseur, as far as I'm told. All right. While you look for that.
Oh, here you go.
Oh, you got it? All right.
Let's see. So we'll do
Can you do that?
I can. I just have to hold it just right.
Can you see it? That's Mark's fancy espresso machine.
So it's no $3,000 setup.
It doesn't say Rafa on it.
But it's close enough to that expensive setup for me not to throw stones at that.
Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna continue to poke fun. In a more serious realm here, Outside Online has an article here from Amelia Arvidsson. It's called "I Witnessed a Fatal Bike Crash and It Changed Me Forever." I wanted to bring this one up because she's actually talking about something that's pretty close to me. She witnessed a crash in Flagstaff, Arizona, which is where I lived for several years, have a lot of friends there. When this particular crash happened, I was deep texting friends to see if they were okay. It was very frightening. Amelia's article is about coping with that. She witnessed it. She was on the ride where a truck towing a box truck blew a red light, blew through the intersection and hit a group of riders, killing one person and permanently maiming several others. One person lost a leg. It was gruesome. It was all too common of a story. And I think Amelia's article here really drives home the point that these are not isolated incidents in time. They have long legs, and they affect everybody who witnesses it, whether you're on a bike or not, the people who get hit, the people who don't. Amelia's article really touches on that quite well, and it actually had me shaking as I was reading it, just because, again, I know this intersection, I know these people, and my God, I've had so many friends die from getting hit by cars. I've had so many get injured from getting hit by cars. It's time we figure out a way to fight this. I don't know what that is, but it's time.
Yeah, when the title of that article did not make me think that was an automobile involved. A fatal bike crash sounded to me like something happened at a crit. And listening to your interview with Bernie, and the way he was very focused on a driver did this, not a car.
Right.
I kind of wish they would have named that differently.
Yeah, and I think bike crash is really misleading here. Yeah. It wasn't a bike crash. It was an auto crash. It was a driver who crashed into a group of cyclists. And even, Outside is very well-intentioned here, and even the most well-intentioned media outlets are still getting this wrong. Yeah. And because it's hard to talk about it, and it's hard to figure out how to semantically, change gears, Right. It's not always easy to figure out the best way to talk about these things in such a way that we take the onus of guilt and fault off of the cyclists, because so many articles do that automatically. Yeah. Oh, he wasn't wearing a helmet. Oh, he wasn't wearing a bright vest. Yeah. Who cares, right?
That helmet didn't stop a 8-ton truck from hitting everybody.
Exactly. My blinking light.
Those helmets are awesome. There are limits.
Yeah, I mean, we can only hedge our bets. But I would love to hear from you guys. What do we do to change this, to me, what's becoming pandemic, really, of people getting hit, killed, hit and maimed, and drivers just get off? How do we change that paradigm? I don't know, but Amelia's article is very well written. It's very frightening and it hits me pretty hard. I hope you'll go check that one out. So over at Road Bike Action, article by one Dan Cavallari.
Who's that guy?
That's me. That's right here.
Really?
So this actually appeared in...
Can I get an autograph?
Yeah, sure. No, actually you can't. I don't have a pen. I have one of my articles that was in the print magazine, Road Bike Action, is now online. It's called Real Men Die in the Wind. Breakaway tips from Jens Voigt. Is based on a story. I was once in Wisconsin at a bike launch, riding with Jens Voigt. I was dying. I was just, it was hot. I was cramping. It was just brutal. And I was right on Jens's wheel. And I was drafting him because I had to survive. And he kind of looked back and saw me there. And he said to me, or he yelled. He didn't say it to me. He said it to everybody. He said, I can't say the word that he actually used, but he said, drafting is for sissies. Real men die in the wind. And then he just took off. But I would encourage you to go check out this article. It's pretty funny in that little story, but it's more importantly, I actually did an interview with Tom Skoinch of Trek Segafredo, and he gives some pointers about what it's like to get into a breakaway, how difficult that is, what the strategy is, how disappointing it can be to kind of get to the line and not win. And going back to Brent Van Moor at the Tour de France this year, where he lost this, he had this epic breakaway.
So close.
Within meters of the finish line, he lost it. Just heartbreaking. But you're going to hear his name again, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, go check that out if you wouldn't mind. In your racing days, turning back the clock.
in my amazing Cat 3 days.
Cat 3 racing days. Did you ever find yourself in a breakaway?
Very rarely.
Yeah.
I was much more likely, as we talked a lot about sprinters, I was much more likely to leave it till the end.
Yeah. Well, so have you learned to climb over mountains so you can be one of the super sprinters?
As you know, I'm from Alabama, the southern part of Alabama.
Hills are different there.
Yeah. The biggest climbing we did were bridges over rivers.
Yeah. Did we miss anything? Any other news that we want to?
I don't think so. That was fun. Yeah, there's a lot going on for the part of the year where there's not a lot going on.
Yeah. Well, again, we would like to hear from you. What do you guys want to hear us talking about? Gosh, I hope you'll join us on the weekly and give us some questions, comments. Again, poke fun at us, heckle from the sidelines. We're like a cyclocross race here.
And if you find this after it's there, don't forget to subscribe. There's a little thing says right down there.
Yeah.
And that way you get a little notice when we're about to go live. Send us some questions you want to check before we go, just in case somebody asks you a question.
No questions. No questions. It's so lonely.
Not even my mom.
It's lonely here.
Well, my mom would see it and ask a question.
I'll have a talk with her.
I'll talk with her about that. It's ridiculous.
All right. Thanks for watching. And if you guys would be so kind, go over to Instagram, follow us at Slow Guy in the Fast Ride. Twitter, you can find us at Slow Guy Fast Ride, which is a little shorter for the Twitterati. And of course, slowguyinthefastride.com. You can go sign up for our newsletter and check out some of the cool articles over there. Thanks for joining. Mark, thanks for spending some time.
Yeah, good times, Dan.